Okay, Chris. So let's get into some real magic here. We're going to be talking about the conversion action for. Well, I'll tell people where we're at first. If you go to conversions and then new conversion action and then website. And so for lead generation campaigns, what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out basically when someone filled out a lead form. So you click on website conversions, and then once you do that, you're taken to a page, and this is what's relatively new here. The first thing they do is they ask you to put in your website domain.
Yep.
And for people that haven't created a conversion in a long time, they haven't seen this before.
Yeah, this is new. This is new. It used to, it just would prompt you to choose, what you're looking for, and then it would give you code, and then you have to go out there and apply code. You got to email a developer that you have or do it yourself, and then you did it wrong, and you got to go back and do it again, and you're confused. You got to look up directions. The fact that it just says put your website in, and then move on to the next step from there. Now, this is completely different.
We're not saying you can still do it the old school manual way.
Yes.
And you might still have to. But if you have, my understanding is if you have Google Analytics on your website, and I don't think it has to be linked to Google Ads. I think it helps if it is. You can have more options, but I don't think it has to be linked in order to pull this off. But you have Google Analytics on your website. You come in here to create a website conversion, track when a lead form is filled out, put in your website, and then you hit scan. And when you hit scan, they're going to check for two things. Number one, they're going to check if your Google Analytics account is linked to Google Ads. And if it is, well, and then the second thing they're going to scan for is if you have a Google Analytics on your website.
Right.
So those are the two things they check for. If it is, if you already have Google Analytics, if you already have Google Analytics linked, well, if you don't have Google Analytics on your site, I think you're just going to have to create conversion actions manually using code, which is the traditional way, and there's an option there for that. But if you have Google Analytics on your site and you have that linked to Google Ads, and the way you would do that is tools and settings, and then setup, and then linked accounts, and then you could link analytics. They will look at the events that you have set up inside of your Google Analytics account, and if you want to, you can just click on import from analytics, and all of a sudden they will import those events that you have set up as goals inside of Google Analytics into Google Ads, and those will track as conversions. Number one, let's stop there, Chris. There's a lot of things you can do in Google Analytics with goal tracking. Isn't that amazing to just click one button and say import and get to choose which ones you import?
Yeah. Yeah. Jason, there probably are some good podcasts out there about Google Analytics. It's deep. I mean, it's just as deep as Google Ads. So there's probably a ton that could be said here about what can be, done in Google Analytics and then imported into Google Ads. But the simplicity for those of us that aren't analytics experts and how this now works, that it can be a literally never leave that screen type of solution where you can click, done. That has never existed. So this is an entirely new system because, Jason, I know you as well as I dreaded that very last step when you're doing a new account setup, right? You go through, you build all your keywords, you write your ads, everything's perfect, and then, okay, here we go. Create the conversion and then craft an email. And
number one, check what kind of form they have.
Yeah, you got to go in and say, like, what are all your forms? Do you have thank you pages for this? And do we need to? There's so many steps, and then you have to send them the email. Then they're always going to send another email back about, well, our developer doesn't know what you mean. Can we get on a call and talk about this? I mean, there's always confusion. So simplifying this is such an important thing for the account owner because you'll get better data. And it's important for Google because it will help people to maintain their account and continue to be prosperous with their account and profitable with their account because they're making better decisions. So this is long overdue. I hope it continues to get
overdue.
I think it's too complicated. I think.
Well, did you know how to make this code and make all this work?
Well, no, but
It's
that's not my job.
long overdue.
It is finally.
You don't think maybe this is a little bit hard to make?
No.
Really? Who knows?
They have a cloud, Jason, and I thought clouds were made of H2O and air.
I thought clouds were made of cookies, and then cookies all of a sudden, I guess, don't matter that much. And so everyone's like, oh, cookies are gone. The internet is private and all that. But it's like, if all these mega tech companies are getting rid of cookies, but they're still happy with it,
yeah,
what do they have that's better than cookies? We don't know, but it works. And it works for Google Ads with this.
They don't have cookie jars anymore. They didn't get rid of cookies. They got rid of cookie jars. And now the cookie jars are hidden somewhere where you can't see them. They're not labeled.
They got rid of cookies, but they still have all the ingredients.
Yes. We're still making cookies. Now you just can't eat them.
Yeah. But Chris, I mean, so the first thing you can do is you can just, whatever goals you have inside of Google Analytics that fit to tracking website events, you can just say import from analytics, boom, and you're done. Now, the other thing you can do if you don't have goals set up in Google Analytics, and this is so amazing, Chris. This is the part that gets me, because one of the issues with analytics and then sending over the codes from Google Ads was the two versions of global tags. And if you already have the global tag from analytics, just one that add this little snippet to it. And if you don't, then you need a full global tag, whatever. What they've done is they said, no, you already have a global tag from analytics. And so we can just do all this for you behind the scenes. And so this is for, hey, guess what? It's not for clicks on a button. It's for page loads. So we'll talk about that in a second. But if you have a page load, which means if someone fills out the form on your website, when you get a lead and you want to be able to track when you get that conversion, and they fill out the form and they go to a thank you page, let's say it's /thanks is the URL, yourwebsite.com/thanks as a URL. All you have to do is go to add page load. And this is an option when they see in analytics on your website, go to add page load. And then you can choose what you want to call that conversion, whether it's a contact or submit lead form or sign up. I'm going to say submit lead form in this case. Then you have your option to say URL is, URL contains, URL starts with. I think you could do like a URL is. I think you could do a URL contains and just say, I think, don't quote me on this, but just say the word thanks or //thanks. And then anytime someone sees that thank you page /thanks, when they have come from a Google Ads click, you get a conversion and you don't have to send code or anything. And you have a website page load thank you page conversion set up all just by putting in the URL. But you have to remember, if you have like a blog post that says when to say thank you or when to say thanks, and then you're only looking for URL contains thanks, then you're going to have multiple conversions that aren't just that thank you page. So you got to be careful with that. Chris, I know you were also concerned about, well, what if they don't have analytics set up correctly, or what happens if there's two analytics on there? You still have to get some code right. But how magical is just put in the thank you page URL essentially right from the Google Ads conversion screen inside of Google Ads, as long as Google Analytics is on the site? How amazing is that?
Yeah, I already talked about the pain and the suffering that I still trying to heal from all the years of having to send these long emails with
no, they're not long emails. They're 2 sentences of instructions. Take this code below and put it on this URL in the head section. Yeah. And here's the code. That's all you send. And then the web developer goes, yeah, can you have them send instructions? We're not sure how to do this.
Yeah.
How bad are you guys at your job?
A week long to
we're gonna rope someone in, and we're gonna bring in the team on this one. And there's 5 other emails. Are you guys serious?
You built this whole website. How is this hard? It's like, Well, one of the things that, in case you haven't heard, and we've said this in the podcast many times, but I just want to say it because I think it's something that Jason has said, I have said many times, and we firmly believe this. If you have forms on your website, the best way I don't care if you're tracking conversions or not tracking conversions, you should have thank you pages for those forms, period. Especially if you're using Google Ads and you want to do conversion tracking. This is a great reason to have thank you pages because it's a copy paste the URL in there and then you're done kind of situation. But, beyond that, there's all kinds of other advantages we won't go into, but it is absolutely an advantage now because
no, it's not an
magic.
advantage. It's necessary.
Necessary.
It's necessary.
Okay.
Because like you're saying, Chris, it was easier. Well, it wasn't easier. It actually worked before.
It worked.
Like
it guaranteed to work.
It
now,
worked.
And you say, well, of course I have thank you pages, but let me explain. I'm not talking about the little pop-up that says, thanks for sending your message, that scrolls up on the page or pops up.
Or a little
like
additional
that.
text that shows up below the form.
Additional text that pops at the bottom.
Form.
We're talking about a different URL that it goes to after the form has been completed. That is the gold standard for a form.
It's the only standard in my book going forward.
Yeah.
Chris, I've been doing this since 2014. I was lucky enough to find you in 2016, but actually then I have to give myself credit. I reached out to you. I looked up to you. We had so much in common, and with this friendship and partnership on this podcast I'm about to tear you apart in a minute.
Oh,
so
okay.
Too
That's
high.
building
you up first. This partnership has blossomed, and since I've been doing this in 2014, maybe sent out hundreds, or maybe 150, maybe 75, something like that, because most of them are thank you page lead, the page loads. But I've sent out well over 100 clicks on a button times, track clicks on a button, well over 100, maybe 150. Not once in 2014 has that ever ended up working. They never get I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Not once has it worked.
Yeah.
So now people have done it before me, and then I get on their into their Google Ads, and we keep tracking it that way. But of course, then it breaks and all that.
Goes
it's wrong. Never
and
worked.
The person who's there at the company now doesn't know how the person did it before, and they can't fix it. And yeah.
So there's also a lot less confidence in that, because you can look at analytics and see how many page loads am I getting on this page that have come from a source of Google Ads. Can't really track how many buttons you're getting that are actually being tracked.
We can go on for a long time about that, but one other thing. So you say, Chris, you haven't convinced me yet. One other thing you can do is you can go to the web page details of the conversion and see where the code is triggering. So if you have different forms, you can see and confirm all those different thank you page forms that are triggering. So you can make sure you're not having false positives. Try that with a button click. Try that with a little pop-up thing.
With a button click, a lot of times you get a misfire on there, and you start tracking like way too many conversions, like when people see it or something. But Chris, the point is with page loads now, they always were the ones that worked in the past when you're tracking lead forms. Now, to me, they're the only thing you can do. It's the only thing you should do, the only thing you can do, because now this magic that is now inside of the Google Ads account, this magic, it only works with page loads. And Chris, a lot of people, when I talk to them in consulting or clients, people listen to the show. Just this week, I was talking to someone who called in, just cold, and he goes, "Your voice sounds familiar." And he goes, "Oh, you're the better half of the Paid Search podcast." Yeah. So Chris, all the time I'm getting all these comments like, Jason, your podcast, the Paid Search podcast is awesome. Chris is getting old. When are you going to age him out? When is he going to stop showing up so often? When are you going to get a new host? And I get that a lot, Chris. But in defense of you, what I tell them is this magic that we have on this podcast, it only works with me and you. It's only both of us.
Well, thank you.
It's both of us together. That's where the magic actually happens and the magic works. Same thing with page loads. This new magical conversion tracking inside of Google Ads, it's super easy and efficient. It only works with page loads.